This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. I'm undertaking a series of videos on how to bind off ribbing. This first bind off is the Smiles and Frowns bind off. It's my very favorite needle bind off, and I think that everyone can learn this, and it's an extremely useful stitch. My next bind off is a double backstitch bind off. It's a little firmer bind off than many, kind of a very interesting decorative edge. It looks like pearls along the edge. My next bind off I call the Purl Graft bind off. It goes on kind of like Kitchener stitch. Very stretchy, very professional looking, with a little bit of a purl stitch again along the edge. This next bind off was done with a crochet hook, and it's a way to bind off after you're off the machine and get the same look as a loop through a loop bind off. And this last bind off is a whip stitch bind off, and it simply involves getting 2 whip stitches into every single knit stitch on either side of the 1x1 ribbing. So those are the different ways that you can bind off after the fact with ribbing, and I'm going to have a few little videos showing how to do these. I have a knitted sample here of Knit 1 Purl 1 ribbing, and I ended by putting a few rows of circular knitting on with a waist yarn just to act as a stitch holder, and I'm going to show you how to crochet to cast off ribbing. So I have a piece of yarn here. I left a long tail and I brought it through in between these stitches to get it through this waist yarn. It had to come up through here. So here's this end dangling, and what I'm going to do is simply a slip stitch. I'm going to insert the crochet hook in the farthest end stitch, and I think of this as the outside of the work and think of this area here as the inside of the work. So I'm poking my tool in from the outside toward the inside, and I'm going to just slip the yarn through it. Now I'm going to take my tool and move it so that I can poke it in from the outside to the inside in the next loop, which is on the opposite side. It's on your side of this for me. And yarn over and draw that through both loops. Now I go back to this side, take the next loop and poke my tool in, get that hook in there, yarn over and draw through both loops. Now back over to your side, insert the hook in the next loop, get my hook in there, yarn over and draw through both loops that are on the hook. Then this side, insert in the next loop, yarn over and draw through both loops. And this is how the cast off is going to look. See, it has kind of a back forth look to it. Now when I go to the side away from me, I'm putting my hook over the yarn, not under it, but over the yarn, and inserting it in the next stitch. It's a little awkward, but hey, not that hard. You get used to it pretty quickly. Then into this one, yarn over and both, go through both. I'm going to do this the whole way across and then show you how that bind off looks. When you get all the way across and you're in that last loop, instead of yarning over and pulling a loop through, yarn over and just pull until you have the whole end through. That helps you to finish this off, and then remove the waist yarn. I put a lot of waist yarn. You have to go 2 rows for each round of circular, and I put 16 rows on this, or 8 rounds. I just don't like to have insecurity about it. So, how does this crocheted cast off look? Well, it looks like a chain stitch, kind of like the loop through a loop cast off. But if you're more comfortable doing this with your crochet hook, here's a way to do it. Now it wrinkles back and forth, and it's identical on both sides. It has a nice amount of stretch. So that's how to crochet and cast off ribbing.